Part G. A holy man will follow after a spirit of mercy and benevolence towards others. He will not stand all the day idle. He will not be content with doing harm. He will try to do good. He will strive to be useful in his day and generation, and to lessen the spiritual wants and misery around him as far as he can. Such was Dorcas, quote, full of good works and alms deeds, which she did, end quote. Not merely purposed and talked about, but did. Such an one was Paul, quote, I will very gladly spend and be spent for you, he says, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved. Acts chapter 9, verse 36, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 15. Part F. A holy man will follow after purity of heart. He will dread all filthiness and uncleanness of spirit, and seek to avoid all things that might draw him into it. He knows his own heart is like tinder, and will diligently keep clear of sparks of temptation. Who shall dare to talk of strength when David can fall? There is many a hint to be gleaned from the ceremonial law. Under it, the man who only touched a bone, or a dead body, or a grave, or a diseased person became at once unclean in the sight of God. And these things were emblems and figures. Few Christians are ever too watchful and too particular about this point. Part I. A holy man will follow after the fear of God. I do not mean the fear of a slave, who only works because he is afraid of punishment, and would be idle if he did not dread discovery. I mean rather the fear of a child, who wishes to live and move as if he was always before his father's face, because he loves him. What a noble example Nehemiah gives us of this. When he became governor of Jerusalem, he might have been chargeable to the Jews, and required of them money for his support. The former governors had done so. There was none to blame him if he did, but he says, quote, so did not I, because of the fear of God. Nehemiah chapter 5, verse 15. Part J. A holy man will follow after humility. He will desire in lowliness of mind to esteem all others better than himself. He will see more evil in his own heart than in any other in the world. He will understand something of Abraham's feeling when he says, quote, I am dust and ashes, end quote. And Jacob's when he says, quote, I am less than the least of all thy mercies, end quote. And Job when he says, quote, I am vile, end quote. And Paul when he says, quote, I am chief of sinners, end quote. Holy Bradford, that faithful martyr of Christ, would sometimes finish his letters with these words, quote, a most miserable sinner, John Bradford, end quote. Good old Mr. Grimshaw's last words, when he lay on his deathbed, were these, quote, here goes an unprofitable servant, end quote. Part K. A holy man will follow after faithfulness in all the duties and relations in life. He will try not merely to fill his place as well as others, who take no thought of their souls, but even better, because he has higher motives and more help than they. Those words of Paul should never be forgotten. Quote, whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, as to the Lord, end quote. Quote, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, end quote. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23, Romans chapter 12, verse 11. Holy persons should aim at doing everything well, and should be ashamed of allowing themselves to do anything ill if they can help it. Like Daniel, they should seek to give no occasion against themselves, except concerning the law of their God, Daniel chapter 6, verse 5. They should strive to be good husbands and good wives, good parents and good children, good masters and good servants, good neighbors, good friends, good subjects, good in private and good in public, good in the place of business and good by their firesides. Holiness is worth little indeed if it does not bear this kind of fruit. The Lord Jesus put a searching question to his people when he says, quote, what do ye more than others? Matthew chapter 5, verse 47. Part L. Last but not least, the holy man will follow after spiritual mindedness. He will endeavor to set his affections entirely on things above, and to hold things on earth with a very loose hand. He will not neglect the business of the life that now is, but the first place in his mind and thoughts will be given to the life to come. He will aim to live like one whose treasure is in heaven, and to pass through this world like a stranger and pilgrim traveling to his home. To commune with God in prayer, in the Bible, and in the assembly of his people. These things will be the holy man's chiefest enjoyments. He will value everything, and place and company, just in proportion as it draws him nearer to God. He will enter into something of David's feeling when he says, quote, "My soul followeth hard after thee. Thou art my portion." Psalm chapter 63 verse 8, chapter 119 verse 57. Such is the outline of holiness which I venture to sketch out. Such is the character which those who are called holy follow after. Such are the main features of a holy man. But here let me say, I trust no man will misunderstand me. I am not without fear that my meaning will be mistaken, and the description I have given of holiness will discourage some tender conscience. I would not willingly make one righteous heart sad, or throw a stumbling block in any believer's way. I do not say for a moment that holiness shuts out the presence of indwelling sin. No, far from it. It is the greatest misery of a holy man that he carries about with him a body of death. That often when he would do good, quote, evil is present with him, end quote. That the old man is clogging all his movements, and, as it were, trying to draw him back at every step he takes, Romans chapter 7 verse 21. But it is the excellence of a holy man that he is not at peace with indwelling sin, as others are. He hates it, mourns over it, and longs to be free from its company. The work of sanctification within him is like the wall at Jerusalem. The building goes forward, quote, even in troublous times, Daniel chapter 9 verse 25. Neither do I say that holiness comes to ripeness and perfection all at once, or that these graces I have touched on must be found in full bloom and vigor before you can call a man holy. No, far from it. Sanctification is always a progressive work. Some men's graces are in the blade, some in the ear, some are like full corn in the ear. All must have a beginning. He must never despise, quote, the day of small things, end quote. And sanctification in the very best is an imperfect work. The history of the brightest saints that ever lived will contain many of but, and howbeit, and notwithstanding, before you reach the end. The gold will never be without some dross. The light will never shine without some clouds. Until we reach the heavenly Jerusalem, the sun himself has spots upon his face. The holiest men have many a blemish and defect when weighed in the balance of the sanctuary. Their life is a continual warfare with sin, the world, and the devil. And sometimes you will see them not overcoming, but overcome. The flesh is ever lusting against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and in many things they offend all. Galatians chapter 5 verse 17, James chapter 3 verse 2. But still, for all of this, I am sure that to have such a character as I have faintly drawn in the heart's desire and prayer of all true Christians, they press towards it, if they do not reach it. They may not attain to it, but they always aim at it. It is what they strive and labor to be, if it is not what they are. And this I do boldly and confidently say, that true holiness is a great reality. It is something in a man that can be seen and known and marked and felt by all around him. It is light. If it exists, it will show itself. It is salt. If it exists, its savor will be perceived. It is a precious ointment. If it exists, its presence cannot be hid.